It's the holiday season. I wonder which Harbaugh brother is the one that's going to get all of the blessings and go further in the playoffs. We'll talk about it in just a second here on Locked On NFL.
The barbershop is open and Tony Wiggins has a chair for you. He's ready with some real NFL talk. The local experts of Locked On bring their expertise, and Wiggy is ready with his clippers and shears. Sit down and enjoy. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
And that is right. It is your team every day. We thank you for making us your first listen here on Locked On NFL, where you get a double dose of the best NFL show you can ever have right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm the host of the Barber Shop Show, Tony Wiggins, joined today by Locked On NFL expert, my brother David Harrison of Locked On Commanders. On today's episode, that's what we're going to discuss today, man. The Dolphins, they need changes. Might not be the ones you think I'm talking about, but we'll make sure that we get to that. Jalen Hurts, his passing is an issue. It is an issue. It's an issue if you're trying to win a championship, not an issue if you're trying to be relevant. We'll discuss that and see if he can get further. And then we'll talk about which Coach Harbaugh can go the furthest. Interesting question. The Chargers have found themselves relevant to the point where everyone is talking about them. I'll tell you what I want y'all to talk about, and that is FanDuel. That's right. That is today's sponsor. You can start the season with a big return and end the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets. If you win your first $5 bet, visit FanDuel.com to get started. Also, make sure you go over to Amazon Music, and that's where you can find Locked On NFL. Check Locked On NFL out over on Amazon Music. David, we ain't gonna bury the lead no more, man. We brothers. We ain't gonna eat together on Thanksgiving, no, and we ain't gonna be around each other on Christmas. And I'm sure the Harbaugh brothers won't either. But if they were, one of them's gonna open a good gift. They might open the same gift. First round, second round, Super Bowl. Which one of these brothers do you think right now is in the best position for their team in the AFC to go the furthest?
You know, I'm actually going to lean to the Chargers. And it's really interesting because my opinion of the Chargers has kind of flipped on its head as the course of the season has gone on. Because we talked about the Chargers, you know, preseason and even early in the season on Locked On NFL. And I kind of pointed out, like, they have one of the easiest schedules in the NFL this year. And I wanted to see how they did against some of these better teams. And, you know, I got to give them credit. You know, they lost both games to the Kansas City Chiefs. True. They lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers. They lost to the Baltimore Ravens. So in one hand, I could sit here and pat myself on the back and be like, they haven't beaten the playoff caliber teams they've played. But I mean, look, they lost by 10 points to the Steelers. They lost by 7 points to the Ravens. They lost by a combined 9 points in their 2 games against the Chiefs, right? Like, they're competing against the best teams in the AFC. Now, they're not winning, but that's what the postseason brings. Like, you learn all those lessons. You make those adjustments, and in the postseason, that's when you take advantage of all those experiences that you've had against these teams. And when I look at the Los Angeles Chargers, I look at their defense. And right now, their run defense, not great, but their pass defense is really good. And when you look at the AFC field, there's not a lot of great run offenses in the AFC. Outside the Baltimore Ravens, the next best rushing offense in the AFC is the Buffalo Bills, who were top 10 in the NFL. But when you're 10th in the NFL, that's not a great rushing attack. That's a good rushing attack. It's not a great rushing attack. So the way that you need to attack the Los Angeles Chargers, if that's not the strength of your team, I think the Chargers are going to be able to be a team that are going to hang around. And it's actually kind of ironic to have this conversation because, again, the Baltimore Ravens have the #1 rushing attack in the NFL. So they're actually the team, right? The one Harbaugh brothers team is actually the team that matches up best with what the other Harbaugh brothers team doesn't do as well. So if you get the Chargers-Ravens playoff matchup, if that ends up coming to fruition, you'll end up with strength versus weakness and strength versus weakness. And it's going to depend on which team can turn their weakness into more of a strength on that day to get that win. So I think that the Chargers, when you look at against the field, because their pass defense is so good, it's going to keep them in a lot of these games. With the Baltimore Ravens, however, they're the kind of team where if you look at them and you have a good passing attack, you can say, look, we need to put points up on these dudes really quickly, and we actually feel like we can. And what that does is it forces the Ravens to then turn into a passing team, which is not their strength.
Now, watch this. You talked about their defense. You talked about their pass defense. And they were very, very pointed and very, very deliberate with somebody they wanted to bring back to the top in the league, his division. Listen to Drogi and Wade out with Locked On Chargers.
There are a lot of bad feelings after a tough loss like the Chargers suffered to the Chiefs, but there is one great silver lining that came from that game, and that is that Derwin James is officially back.
Well, Daniel, one of the things that defensive coordinator Jesse Minter wanted to make sure to accomplish this season was reestablishing Derwin James as the best safety in the NFL. And over the last 6 or 7 games, it seems like it's heading towards mission accomplished.
See, look at that. You're omniscient, man. You didn't even know I had that clip, and I was ready to load that out there. And you talked about their passing game and the things that they have gotten done. But you are exactly right when it comes to them. They were very, very deliberate. And so far, and that is him too. He is a deliberate coach. He ain't trying to trick nobody. You know, it's just what it is. And that approach has really, really helped him this year. We discussed this on our AFC squad show that, by the way, will be shown. It's our NFC and AFC squad, our joint squad. We discussed the Chargers, and that's why I wanted to bring it up, because I saw when we brought it up, it changed everybody's faces based on what they were saying early in the season. The Ravens are the Ravens, and you're right. If these two teams happen to meet up, David, that means something happened, because they're both wild card teams. So that means that the 2 weeks before that, they upset some people. And if it wasn't, and in fact, the people they upset will probably upset everybody except for the fact that it was the Harbaugh brothers, which gives them some more drama to attach to probably in a championship game. But Baltimore, you're right. They're not going to panic, but I'm a little bit concerned, and I'll tell you why after we listen to my man, Kevin Oestreicher.
We're just so dominant last year that a lot of those issues didn't pop up until the AFC Championship game. Then you're in the third quarter of the biggest game of your life, and you're like, oh, we have to fix these things we haven't tried to fix all season. That's difficult. I think if you're looking at the silver lining, it is a little better to go through that stuff now and assess during the regular season, the bye week, figure out how to respond to those things. Now it's up to the team, coaching staff, players, organization to respond to it accordingly and respond to it effectively. And if you can't, obviously you're not going very far in the playoffs. But if you're able to do that, if you're able to identify those issues now, especially because I feel like losses do bring this stuff to the surface more than wins.
There's my man, Oestreicher. He's taking a nice approach to it. His approach is, look, you better find out who you are now and don't get in the playoffs and then get surprised where you can't make adjustments, or you're like an uninformed combatant, if you will. But here's where I disagree with him. It ain't gonna matter, because the things that they don't do well, they're gonna make you do them anyway. That's stop the run, and then be able to stop people when they're chasing Lamar Jackson around on down and distance situations that were created by false starts and holding penalties. You ain't got to worry about people trying you and folks not figuring it out. They're going to try those things, man. That's the first. That's like going to a restaurant thinking you ain't going to get no water. That's the first thing you're going to get.
Yeah, look, I mean, the Baltimore Ravens, honestly, when we have these conversations of teams that are better than we expected, teams that are worse than we expected, really the Ravens have kind of escaped this conversation of being worse than everybody expected. I mean, when Derrick Henry joined the Baltimore Ravens, it was like, okay, well, this is over. Like they brought Derrick Henry in to be the Chiefs killer, but right now, like you gotta clinch a playoff spot first. You know what I mean? Now, again, they've got 8 wins. They're in the 5th place in the AFC. They got the New York Giants coming up. So, the schedule is certainly favoring them, and nobody, I don't think, is sitting here saying that the Ravens aren't going to make the playoffs, but they have not been the dominant team that everybody expected them to be. And they've certainly had some moments, but their inconsistencies that have crept up in the postseason have started to creep up now in the regular season. And I totally get, like, they know who they want to be. They know who they are, and they're going to make you stop what they want to do first before they try to do anything else. But some of the things that have plagued them in the postseason are plaguing them now in the regular season. And to me, that's more of a regression, and that's got to be concerning if you're the Baltimore Ravens. Again, once you get to the tournament, we all know what happened those first 18 weeks no longer matters once you get to the tournament. But it does matter a little bit, because the mentality of your team, if your team isn't 100% confident that you're going to be able to overcome some of the things that have bitten you in the butt in the postseason in the years past, that could become a problem, I think, more than we're talking about right now.
And it's going to segue us into another segment. Look at it. I just said segue us to another segment. Look, no, but it's going to take us somewhere where I want to go with the Eagles. And we're going to dedicate all of the middle of this show to Philadelphia and what their drama is. But a part of, I think, was bothering the Ravens, and it's not necessarily something that's bad. It's like, okay, we're going to be more one running back dominated, even though Justice Hill is a real good player. They used to have 3 or 4 people back there. All right. And also we're going to spend more money and more draft capital on our wide receivers, two wide receivers in the first round within like 4 years with Bateman and the kid they got out of Boston College last year, Zay. So, and then we're going to go out in free agency, and then we're going to take chances on other guys. And then we're going to go out here. So what that does is that starts peeling your face away a little bit of who you actually are when you change the dynamic. And you can have good results, but you're actually losing something and you don't realize. I think Philly's in the same situation because you're going to start seeing now things that they didn't concentrate on before. They're leading the league in rushing, and all of a sudden now somebody got their lip poked out because they're not getting the ball. So we'll talk about that in segment number 2 here on Locked On NFL. Today's show is brought to you and sponsored by Built Rewards. That's right. If you're a renter, listen up. This is a total game changer. Thanks to Built, B-I-L-T, you can now earn points in rent payments just like you do with groceries or travel. Paying rent now comes with serious perks and it's completely free to join. Earn valuable Built points on your rent everyday spending at no cost. Redeem points for flights, hotels, and even further rent payments or future rent payments with over 500 airlines and 700,000 hotels in their program. The possibilities are endless. Access unique experiences that are exclusive to Built members. I love using it for travel. My wife uses it more than me because she travels more than me, but it always feels good when you have these rewards and you get something back for them. So start earning points on your rent you're already paying by going to joinbuilt.com/lockedonnfl. That's joinbuilt.com/lockedonnfl. Join Built, one word, .com/lockedonnfl. Make sure you use our link so they know we sent you. Don't wait. Start earning rewards today. All right, rolling along here with my man David Harrison, Locked On Commanders, Locked On NFL local expert. Listen, we talked about Baltimore earlier and how in trying to change and do things and improve a little bit better in one area, sometimes inherently you pull from another area. So the Eagles had this passing game. I wouldn't necessarily call it prolific, but A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, and of course the tight end Goddard, they were always getting their share of balls. And then their running game basically consisted of a committee and then Jalen Hurts and of course the tush push, right? Well, then they became this team when they went out and got Saquon Barkley, David, where they became dynamic. This dude has a chance to break the rushing record, and they start winning more games. They become more of a consistent team, and here come the problems. Here comes the diva attitude by the wide receiver. That may be warranted. It may not be warranted. I want to get your opinion on if A.J. Brown's concerns are real and justified, and if he's handling it as good as he thinks. But listen, I want you to listen to Luke Bukowski first, because Lou from Locked On Eagles is going to actually say basically two things can be right at the same time.
He was just hesitant to get the ball out. They were too cautious. He just wasn't pulling the trigger. He was gun shy. And I think what that is Jalen Hurts has made such an effort, a conceited effort, to make sure he's not getting in the way. He's being a good game manager. He's not turning the ball over like he was early this year. He's letting Saquon Barkley be the Batman. He's playing efficient, clean football and not turning the ball over. He's managing the game. I think the coaches told him after the bye week to do just that, to own this run-first identity. But I think it's gone a little bit too far, where Sunday he's got plays down the field to A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, and he's seeing them and hesitating.
David, I'm going to give you a chance to give me your perspective from both the NFC East as a dude that's going to be behind enemy lines, and you're one of the most practical people I know, can make sense out of this. I think everybody can be right a little bit, but this is where I come back to Sirianni. If there was a Harbaugh presence, you wouldn't even hear about this stuff.
You're 100% right. This is a leadership problem. Like, bottom line, this is a leadership problem, and Nick Sirianni has proven that he is not a leader. Look, Kellen Moore, I think he's got a lot of potential. I think he's a very smart offensive mind in this business today. He's not a leader. Like he has not had that personality to rein in a guy like A.J. Brown and to lift up a guy like Jalen Hurts. And Jalen Hurts' confidence issues are not new. Jalen Hurts' confidence issues go all the way back to when the Eagles really first started struggling. And this is what we talk about all the time in this league. And C.J. Stroud is going through it right now. And I'll be honest, I'm a little bit worried, not from a functional standpoint, but just because this is the way things go, that next year covering the Washington Commanders there may be a little bit of a drop-off and a little bit of a disappointment, because it is really hard to be good in the National Football League, but it is even harder to be good again in the National Football League. That's why the guys like Mahomes and Brady and Jackson, that's why they're so special, man. Like, when you're good, that's fantastic. But when you need to be good again, that's where the rubber meets the road. And Jalen Hurts, when he first came onto the scene in the NFL, he took the NFL by storm. He was going to be this next great quarterback. I still like Jalen Hurts as a player, as a quarterback. But what he is going through, what he's been going through since last season, is teams figuring out who he is and teams understanding how to best defend him. And this goes back to last year where he and Jason Kelce, from my pupils, were not on the same page. Jason Kelce was calling protections one way. Jalen Hurts is scrambling the other way. They're not on the same page. Jalen Hurts isn't trusting what's in front of him. Now you get to this year and you look at it, man. The Philadelphia Eagles are worse when Jalen Hurts is in control of the game flow. Like, that's just the bottom line, man. When the game is on Jalen Hurts, the Eagles they regress. This team needs Saquon Barkley to carry this team, and that's exactly what's happening. And it's not that Jalen Hurts, in my opinion, is allowing it to happen or trying to steer into it. Jalen Hurts understands he is not what makes the Eagles fly. Guess what? A.J. Brown understands he is not what makes the Eagles fly. But who's going to get all the attention? Who's going to get the MVP buzz? Who's going to get all the interviews? Who's going to get the exclusive access? It's going to be Jalen Hurts. And when you're a guy like A.J. Brown, like it or love it or hate it, A.J. Brown's not cool with that. A.J. Brown is not going to be okay with Saquon Barkley carrying this team, A.J. Brown being open and his quarterback not delivering the ball, but Jalen Hurts is going to get love. And I'm not saying Jalen Hurts is getting all love. Obviously, Saquon is the MVP candidate from that team. But when you look around Philly media, people are going to defend Jalen. They're going to wear more Jalen Hurts jerseys and all this other stuff. A guy like A.J. Brown does not like that. And you had to know that before you brought him into this organization. He was like that with Tennessee. This ain't new either.
Nope.
When you have Nick Sirianni and you have Kellen Moore and you have one dude who kind of feeds into that type of atmosphere, and then you have another dude who just doesn't know how to manage it and isn't capable of managing it, this is the kind of stuff you have. We talk all the time, Wig, about winning, curing everything. Winning doesn't cure anything. I'll tell you that right now. Winning doesn't cure anything. You know what winning does? Winning hides things. That's what winning does. Winning hides things. This is not new. Brandon Graham, bro, I get it, man. You backpedaled, but you weren't wrong. And you know you weren't wrong, brother. You know you told the truth when you came out and talked about that relationship between A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts. You're trying to do damage control, and I totally get it, and I totally applaud you. But this is a problem in that locker room because you have a quarterback that is lacking in confidence because he's been figured out by opposing defenses. He still has talent, man, but he does not have the confidence to go out there and be a killer. And that is what the Philadelphia Eagles are going to need him to be if, and knock on wood, it doesn't happen. But if they lose Saquon Barkley, it's game over, bro.
Yeah, it is game over. So there's layers to this. There's, like I said, there's no right and no wrong. It's just things being pulled in a different directions for me. A.J. Brown was with a bad Titans team putting up huge numbers. He wanted his money. He got it eventually, but he also wanted to win. I'm thinking that guys want to win and they want their money, right? A.J. Brown may know this is all cool and I'm down with it, but I know in order to win that game, y'all going to need me. And we need to start practicing that right now because everybody ain't going to let us get away with this. So that could be it. People can say, well, he just wants his money. He wants to make the Hall of Fame. Well, he should if he's good enough. He should want to get paid for it, and he should want to be recognized for it. But there's another path to that. The path is winning. I think what A.J. Brown is saying, all right, I'm in it. But I'm trying to tell you, if we get to that last game and you start seeing, and he's hesitant with the ball, we're going to lose. Yep. This is all that could be. This guy could be a competitor.
This is T.O. and Donovan all over again, bro.
It is T.O. and Donovan. I almost looked at that as being selfish, though. I look at this as being, I'm trying to tell you, he ain't it. And we need to start practicing for him to try to beat it or do whatever we need to do right now for what's coming. And there'll be folks that say, "Wig, you don't know what you're talking about. A.J. Brown ain't never been to that moment." People that are going to get to that moment and do what they're going to do in that moment, like T.O. with the broken leg, he ain't never had to be there before. He's been prepared for it his whole life. And what he's telling you is this dude that won't throw him the ball when he's wide open is going to hurt them down the line. And that I truly, truly believe the money, the championships, stats, and all of that are important. But I cover a team. Fred Taylor averaged 4.6 yards a carry, 8 different seasons. 8 different seasons. Jimmy Smith has 10 1,000-yard receivers, and they're not even in the Hall of Fame in pro football. And their peers think they should be. It's because they didn't win enough. So winning actually does help the bottom line for a lot of these guys. And
you know who A.J. Brown is being influenced by right now?
Who?
Devontae Adams.
Yep.
That's what A.J. Brown is right now. He's a young Devontae Adams, and he is trying to make sure that he doesn't end up victimized by a lack of NFL franchise acumen the way that Devontae Adams has been. Devontae Adams should have multiple rings, and he's got none.
He absolutely should. All right, we're going to talk about some teams trying to get some rings here in our final segment, the Dolphins. The Dolphins have this team on paper, man, that you look at and go, damn. But there's something about them, right? When we're talking about the Eagles, well, there's the total opposite. There's a question of toughness. And there's a question of toughness in the messaging and in the coaching staff. We're going to get an opinion that says they don't need to change much. We'll talk about that in just a second here on Locked On NFL. Today's show is brought to you and sponsored by Ice Shaker. Man, this is the absolute best workout bottle you ever seen in your life. It's made out of the steel, man. It doesn't smell. It is the absolute truth. I'm telling you, man, Ice Shakers is for real. If you're like me and you're looking for holiday gifts for people and they are sports fans, there's no better gift. There's a perfect gift, in fact, created by Rob Gronkowski and the Gronkowski brothers that benefits sports fans, people that like to work out, all during the holiday season. Ice Shaker, man. It's created by the Gronk brothers. They've sold over 1 million bottles. It is a game changer. Kitchen grade stainless steel. It won't smell and absorb the odor. And it has your favorite team and their face written all over it. That's right. I got mine and my wife took it to work and she works out during the middle of the day. So I wish I could show it to you right now, but I'm telling you, it is the real deal. Order your team branded bottles today at iceshaker.com and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for 25% off your order. Ice Shaker, show your support for your teams with the best branded workout bottles on the market. And that is Ice Shaker at iceshaker.com. All right, running it down here, Locked On NFL. You know where it is. My man David Harrison sitting here in the barbershop with me, just talking about everybody's business. We're going to start talking about the Miami Dolphins and what they have going on. My man Matt Williamson always says, you got too many Ferraris and not enough dump trucks. He's going to say that in this clip too on Peacock and Williamson podcast. Listen to them when they talk about Miami and the prospects of, yeah, they're okay, but what's really going on with this team?
Dolphins are on the opposite side of things because there's much more expectations coming in.
Yeah, and they have the Tyreek contracts and giving Waddle money and Tua and pushing all their chips in. And I go back to the same thing over and over with this team. They're actually playing really well. And Tua in their passing game is playing really well. You know, like I would not mess with that at all. But, you know, Wig and I have been joking about this every Friday that there are a bunch of Ferraris and they need some dump trucks. You know, go get a guard. You know, go get a defensive tackle that's 330 pounds. You know, your division is a cold weather division, whether you like it or not. You know, you have a huge advantage at home and early in the year, but history shows that you can't win the tough, grinded out type of games. It's not even cold. It's just weather and, you know, that type of football game.
David, is this just a matter of them just getting tougher type bodies, or do they need an infusion of attitude and mentality change in Miami?
It's a matter of knowing your personnel is what it is. And what the Miami Dolphins did is they forgot what really got them to where they needed to go coming into this last offseason, because you guys talk about too many Ferraris, not enough dump trucks. The Miami Dolphins had 2 dump trucks on this team. They had Christian Wilkins and they had Robert Hunt. Neither of those guys is playing for this team anymore. But you know what the Miami Dolphins do have right now? $18 million in cap room. That $18 million in cap room ain't going to stop no runs. It's not going to rush no passers. It's not going to block. You know what I mean? You got Devon A-Chain, who he's good, right? But he's an extension of a running game type of running back. He is not a primary running back. He should not be a primary running back in the NFL by himself, right? Robert Hunt is making $6 million against salary cap this year for the Carolina Panthers. The Miami Dolphins got $18 million in open cap space and no run game. Last year, the Miami Dolphins were the number 1 rush team in the National Football League. What happened is that Mike McDaniel, and again, he's not alone because this is a brain trust, right? But Mike McDaniel is the figurehead, and I love Mike. What happened is people confuse sometimes innovation with just being new. Yeah. And Mike McDaniel, as much as everybody wanted to give him credit for being an innovator, didn't really innovate. He's not really an innovator. What he was he was one of the first guys to say, hey, we're just going to make a track meet team and we're just going to race you out of the building. And it was sexy and it created highlights and it won people fantasy championships. So it was amazing. But what you have seen since Mike McDaniel's gotten to Miami is he is not an innovator. He is not changing his stripes. He is not adjusting his approach to this game. And by letting a guy like Robert Hunt go away, by letting a guy like Christian Wilkins out of the building, basically what you did is you tried to turn your team into an even faster version of itself, thinking that what makes us great as the Dolphins team is our speed, and we just need more of that speed. Well, what the season has taught you and what the season should have taught you last year and even the years prior is that that's not true, bro. You can't scrap. At the end of the day, you cannot street fight. You can run, you can jump, you can fly. You cannot street fight. And to win championships in the National Football League, you've got to be able to street fight. The Kansas City Chiefs are winning. And we can talk about toes being in and bounds or out of bounds. We can talk about pass interferences like nobody else doesn't get a pass interference call or gets a pass interference. We can do all this complaining we want at the end of the day. But bottom line is the Kansas City Chiefs are a team that from 60 minutes left in the game to 0 seconds left in the game are going to fight you in the air, on the ground, and in between. The Miami Dolphins are not going to do that. And the Kansas City Chiefs didn't always do that. I remember the Kansas City Chiefs who only could beat you by running you out of the building. And guess what? The Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Todd Bowles came to the Super Bowl and said, we're going to pound you in the face, in the chest, and in the gut. And the Kansas City Chiefs folded like a cheap lawn chair. From that point forward, the Kansas City Chiefs went out and said, no, we're going to get tougher. And they've gotten tougher. The Miami Dolphins have been folded and folded and folded over and over again. And they continue to try to say, we're just going to run away from you. You cannot run away from a bully. You got to fight that bully. And the Dolphins don't want to do that.
Yep, you got to punch him back. And, you know, there's two ways to stop a Ferrari on the road, right? One of them is change the terrain and make it bumpy. Yeah. The other one is a traffic jam. And you get both of those every single week. People are changing the landscape. You get different elements, and then you get just bumps in the road, man. You got to be able to do more than run around the problem. You got to be able to run through it. Peter Bukowski wants to run through some issues. Y'all got to watch our combined AFC NFC scout show this week. Peter Bukowski tried to hijack that thing and turn it into we're gonna change the playoff rules. That's my boy, though. That's my buddy, man. But he is saying something about the Green Bay Packers that's true. They're elite, but in order for them to be considered really, truly elite, and that's me saying that, they have to learn how to beat the big teams in the big moments, and it comes down to 2 or 3 plays a game. Listen to what he says about their lack of aggression.
The Green Bay Packers can't beat teams like the Eagles and the Lions if they don't start getting aggressive on 4th down. The Green Bay Packers have gone soft on 4th down decision-making. Matt LaFleur has been the most conservative coach in the NFL this year in kick-go decision-making. The most conservative. This has been a stark departure from going back to 2019. Matt LaFleur, through 2023, was one of the 3 most aggressive coaches in the league.
Shout out to Peter Bukowski and Matt Derrick, who this is going to make really happy because they got this ongoing battle going in the NFC North. Peter Bukowski just said that Matt LaFleur needs to be more like Dan Campbell and just go for it. Go for it. So he's basically saying that the Packers need to be more like the Lions.
I mean, listen, this is a combative sport. All right, look, people say that they're playing a kid's game, okay? Listen, the National Football League, they're not playing a kid's game. They're playing a grown man's game because kids do not play this game the way that these grown men are playing this game in the National Football League. All right, it might look similar, but this is not a kid's game that these guys are playing. This is a grown man's game. And this is a game of, again, from 60 seconds left to 0 seconds left. I don't care about you. I don't care about your family. I am out here to hurt you, to take your paycheck, and to make sure that you don't ever have a job again. And you cannot do that by being nice. You know what I mean? Like, I cover a head coach in Dan Quinn that a lot of people look at and say, man, he's a nice guy. He will shake your hand. He will say hi to you in the stands. He will wave to you. He does like the cowabunga thing and all that stuff. And everybody says Dan Quinn is a really nice guy. But guess what's going to happen when Dan Quinn has 4th and 2 or 4th and 1 on your 32-yard line and he's trying to kill your playoff odds? He's going to go for it, and he's going to try to end your day. He is not going to sit here and play the gentleman's game, take the field goal, hope that the defense stop. No, he's going to try to end the game right then and there. He is aggressive. He is an aggressor. You've got to be aggressive. I disagree. The Green Bay Packers are not elite. I'll just tell you right now. And
I know that's why I put that in there. I said that's me. That's not him saying that.
Peter Bukowski, you can come at me, but the Green Bay Packers are not elite. The Green Bay Packers have lost to the Philadelphia Eagles. They lost to the Minnesota Vikings. They lost twice to the Detroit Lions. Their biggest quality win in my book is against the Los Angeles Rams in week 5, early October. That's your best quality win this season if we want to talk about college football similarities. You beat the San Francisco 49ers, which is great, but they beat the San Francisco 49ers with Brandon Allen. So let's not get too crazy here. All right. And we all know this 49ers team is not the same 49ers team. We talk about teams who haven't beaten anybody yet. The Green Bay Packers haven't beaten anybody. And I'm sorry, but you got the Seahawks, Saints, Vikings, and Bears left on your schedule. So unless you beat the Vikings, your best quality win this season is going to be against the team that, if the playoffs started today, they're sitting at home, the Los Angeles Rams. So the Green Bay Packers are not elite. They're far from elite. They have no physicality. The only elite player on their team, in my opinion, is Brandon Jacobs. And I don't think he's being used properly, which goes to what Peter Bukowski is talking about. So, you know, I'm not saying the Green Bay Packers are pretenders. They're definitely a playoff caliber team, and they're a good team. You know what I mean? But as far as you want to put the Packers in the boat of the Packers teams of old that made them elite, this team is lacking spirit in all different types of facets.
I like it. I like the disagreement. Ain't nothing wrong with it. All those games you mentioned that they lost, they were right there, and they were like a play away.
They were.
You might be right. You might be right.
They
It might just not be about one play aggression. It might be about there's something missing in the DNA that puts you in that situation, and every time you get in that situation, you fall to the wayside. But guess what?
If you ain't first, you last. I don't care if you were sucking on that tailpipe. You still behind, bro.
I got you. And we're going to see down the stretch, because they have a tough schedule, and we're going to see if we need to be worried about reseeding the playoffs too. I'm sure y'all hear about that discussion again. Make sure you check out our AFC and NFC squad show, and you'll hear about it that David hosts. Make sure you also tune in to Locked On NFL. Tyler Rowland hits you upside your head early in the morning. You get a double dose of it. Him in the morning, me in the afternoon here on Locked On NFL in the barbershop. After the Madman early in the morning. Make sure you check it out. You guys take care of each other. David, I know you got to get to it. We'll see you here next Wednesday, same time, same place. Y'all take care of each other, and we'll do the same.